Then a woman moves into frame. She's calm, controlled, wearing a draped green blouse and slacks that say she's working, not attending. Her hand rests gently on the boy's shoulder, guiding him back toward the service hallway. But as she turns, her sleeve rides up. A flower. Delicate, inked into the skin of her inner wrist. Jaemin's heart doesn't skip, it fractures. He knows that flower. He remembers the night she got it, the way she laughed when the artist asked if she was sure, the way she looked at him afterward and said, "Now I'll always have something beautiful that reminds me of you." The ballroom keeps spinning. Music plays. People talk. But Jaemin is somewhere else entirely, standing in a memory he thought he'd buried so deep it couldn't crawl back out. Now, if that opening grabbed you, drop a comment and subscribe if you're new. This story is about to get wild. Stay tuned to see how a love thought lost could append everything and uncover secrets even he didn't know. Years before the gala, before the power and the guards and the weight of a family empire pressing down on his shoulders, Han Jae-min was just another exchange student trying to survive American college life. He sat in the back of lecture halls, took notes in Korean and English side by side, and kept his head down because that's what his father taught him. Observe first, engage only when necessary. He wasn't shy. He was careful. There's a difference. Atlanta in autumn felt nothing like Seoul. The air was thick and warm even in October, the campus stretched out under old trees with roots that broke through sidewalks, and people smiled at strangers like it didn't cost them anything. Jaemin didn't understand that at first. In his world, smiles were currency. You didn't give them away for free. Then he met her. It happened in a coffee shop just off campus, the kind of place with mismatched chairs, handwritten menu boards, and students crammed into every corner with laptops and textbooks. Jaemin sat alone near the window, working through a statistics problem set that made his eyes burn. He didn't notice her until she was right next to his table, balancing a stack of folders, a coffee cup, and what looked like half her life in a canvas tote bag. She tripped. Not dramatically, just a stumble, a shift in balance. Jaemin's hand shot out on instinct, steadying her elbow before the coffee could tip. She looked at him, and for a second, neither of them said anything. Her eyes were warm, brown, expressive in a way that made him feel like she'd already figured him out. She smiled. "Thanks. I swear gravity has it out for me today." Her voice was easy, like she wasn't embarrassed, like small disasters were just part of her routine. Jaemin nodded, pulling his hand back. "It happens. You always this quick." She set her stuff down on the edge of his table without asking, and somehow he didn't mind. Or did I just get lucky? He didn't know how to answer that, so he just looked at her. She laughed. Openly. Like she found something about the moment genuinely funny. "I'm Sabrina. Jaemin. Nice to meet you, Jaemin." She said his name carefully, like she wanted to get it right. That mattered to him more than it should have. They started seeing each other after that. Not in any official way at first, just run-ins at the coffee shop, then study sessions that weren't really about studying, then walks across campus when the sun set and the air finally cooled down. Sabrina talked a lot. Not in an overwhelming way, but in a way that filled the space between them with warmth. She told him about her major, business administration with a focus on logistics, and how she wanted to work internationally someday, coordinating events or managing supply chains, something that let her solve problems and move pieces around like a puzzle. She told him about her grandmother, who raised her when her parents couldn't, who taught her to be strong but not hard, to protect herself but not close off. Jaemin listened. He didn't talk much about his own family at first, but Sabrina didn't push. She just waited, like she knew he'd get there when he was ready. One night, they sat on a bench near the campus library, the kind of quiet that only exists in the hour before midnight when most people have gone home. Sabrina leaned back, looking up at the sky even though you couldn't see many stars through the city lights. "You ever feel like you're supposed to be somewhere else?" she asked. Jaemin didn't answer right away. He thought about Seoul. About his father's office, all dark wood and leather, the way his voice never rose but still commanded every room he entered. About his mother, who spoke in soft tones but whose expectations were sharper than any blade. About the life waiting for him when he went back. A life that had been decided before he was old enough to have an opinion about it. Yes, he said finally. Sabrina turned her head to look at him. But you don't want to go there. No. She reached over and took his hand. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't some grand romantic gesture. It was just her hand in his, warm and steady, and for the first time in a long time, Jae-min felt like he could breathe. Then don't, she said simply. He looked at her, this woman who believed things could be that easy, that you could just choose a different path and the world would let you walk it. He wanted to believe her. God, he wanted to. Months passed. They fell into each other the way people do when they're just themselves in the quiet spaces between everything else. Sabrina learned that Jae-min was a terrible cook but made perfect tea. That he listened to jazz when he studied. That he had a scar on his ribcage from a childhood accident he wouldn't talk about. Jae-min learned that Sabrina hated mornings but loved sunrises. That she hummed when she was focused. That she had a strong, stubborn side, but the moment she feared she might truly hurt someone, she would quietly step back. They didn't talk about the future much. It felt safer that way. But one night, in the spring, Jae-min took her to a park just outside the city. It was late, past 11, and the place was empty except for the sound of crickets and the distant hum of traffic. They walked down a path lined with trees, and when they reached a clearing, Jae-min stopped. Sabrina turned to face him, and he saw the question in her eyes before she even opened her mouth. He pulled a small box from his jacket pocket. Her breath caught. I don't have much to offer you right now, he said quietly. His English was careful, measured, but his emotion bled through every word. But I can offer you this. My word. My heart. My future. Whatever that looks like. I want it to be with you. Sabrina's eyes filled with tears. She didn't try to hide them. Jae-min, you don't have to answer now, he said quickly, suddenly terrified he'd miscalculated, that he'd pushed too hard, too fast. But she shook her head, reaching for the box, for his hands, for him. Yes, she whispered. Of course, yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger, and she kissed him there in the dark under trees that had seen 1,000 moments like this but none that mattered as much as theirs did right then. For a few weeks, it felt like they'd won. Like they'd carved out a space in the world that was just theirs, and nothing could touch it. But Jae-min knew better. He'd always known better. The call came on a Tuesday. His father's voice, calm and cold, informing him that he was expected back in Seoul within the month. No discussion. No negotiation. Jae-min tried to explain. Tried to tell his father about Sabrina, about the life he wanted to build, about the fact that he'd proposed to a black lady and she'd said yes, and didn't that mean something? His father listened in silence. Then he said, you will end this, she's different from us. You will come home. And you will do what is expected of you. I love her. Love, his father repeated, like the word was distasteful. Love does not build empires, Jae-min. Love does not protect families. You are my son. You have responsibilities. I know. Then act like it. The line went dead. Jae-min sat in his apartment for hours, staring at his phone, trying to figure out how to tell Sabrina that the life they'd planned was never really theirs to plan. He didn't have to. She figured it out on her own. They met at the coffee shop where they'd first spoken, and the second Sabrina saw his face, she knew. Your family, she said. It wasn't a question. Jae-min nodded. They won't accept it. They won't accept us. Sabrina's jaw tightened, but she didn't cry. Not yet. Because I'm black. Because you're not Korean. Because you're not from our world. Because they think. He stopped, unable to finish the sentence. They think I'm not good enough, Sabrina said flatly. No, Jae-min said urgently, reaching for her hand across the table. That's not what I think. You have to know that. But it's what they think. She pulled her hand back, not cruelly, just carefully. And you're going back to them. I don't have a choice. Everyone has a choice, Jaemin. Her voice cracked on his name. You're just choosing them over me. That's not fair. Fair. She laughed, bitter and broken. None of this is fair. They sat in silence for a long time. The coffee shop buzzed around them, oblivious. Finally, Sabrina stood. I'm not going to make this harder for you, she said quietly. I'm not going to beg you to stay or fight for something you've already decided you can't have. Sabrina, I love you, she said, and the words landed like a goodbye. But I love you enough to let you go. Because if you stay, you'll resent me. And if I follow you to Seoul, they'll destroy me. Or worse, they'll destroy you trying to protect me. Jaemin's throat closed. He wanted to argue. Wanted to tell her she was wrong. But he couldn't. Because deep down, he knew she was right. Sabrina walked out of the coffee shop, and Jaemin didn't follow her. He told himself it was the right thing to do. He told himself he was protecting her. But the truth was simpler and more painful than that. He was afraid. And fear, in the end, is what cost him everything. 3 weeks later, Sabrina sat in her bathroom, staring at 2 pink lines on a pregnancy test. Her hands shook. Her grandmother knocked on the door, voice soft but firm. Baby, you okay in there? Sabrina opened the door. Her grandmother took one look at her face and knew. Oh, sweetheart. Sabrina broke. She cried in a way she hadn't let herself cry since Jaemin left, and her grandmother held her, rocking her gently, whispering the things grandmothers whisper when the world feels too big and too cruel. I'm sorry, Mama. I failed you, she cried more. When Sabrina finally calmed down, her grandmother pulled back, hands on her shoulders. Does he know? Sabrina shook her head. He's in Korea. He's gone. Then you call him. Right now. Tonight. Because whatever happened between you two, that baby deserves a father who knows they exist. Sabrina wanted to argue. Wanted to say it didn't matter, that she could do this alone. But her grandmother's eyes were steel. So that night, Sabrina dialed Jaemin's number. Her heart pounded so hard she thought she might pass out. The phone rang once. Twice. 3 times. Then a woman's voice answered. Smooth. Cold. Unfamiliar. Hello. Sabrina froze. I'm calling for Jaemin. Hon Jaemin. There was a pause. Then, who is this? My name is Sabrina. I know who you are, the woman said, and Sabrina's stomach dropped. You're the American girl. Sabrina's throat tightened. I need to speak to him. He's not available. It's important. I'm sure it is. The woman's tone was ice. Let me guess. You're pregnant. Sabrina's breath caught. How did she? And you thought you'd call my son, the woman continued, and tell him this convenient little story, hoping he'd come running back. Hoping you could secure a place in a family you know nothing about. That's not. Let me be very clear, Miss Wright. Jaemin has responsibilities here. A future. A legacy. And you are not part of it. Whatever situation you find yourself in, it is not his concern. Sabrina's hands shook. How do you know it's not? Because I know my son, his mother cut in sharply. And I know women like you. If you're pregnant, it's not his. And if you think you can manipulate this family for money, you're more foolish than I thought. Sabrina's vision blurred. I don't want your money. Good. Because you won't get it. Not unless you're smart. There was a pause, and when his mother spoke again, her voice was measured. I'll transfer a sum to you. Enough to handle things. But only if you sign an agreement stating you will never contact Jaemin or this family again. Sabrina felt sick. You're offering me money to disappear. I'm offering you a choice. Sabrina closed her eyes. She thought about Jaemin. About the way he'd looked at her in that park. About the life they'd imagined. And then she thought about this woman, his mother, who didn't even believe her, who thought so little of her that the first assumption was manipulation. "Keep your money," Sabrina said quietly. "I don't want it. And I don't want anything from you or your family." She hung up before his mother could respond. Her grandmother found her on the floor, sobbing into her hands. "What did he say?" her grandmother asked gently. "He didn't," Sabrina choked out. "His mother did. She said it's not his. She offered me money to go away." Her grandmother's face hardened. She knelt down, pulling Sabrina into her arms. "Then we do this without them," she said firmly. "You and me and this baby. We'll be just fine." Sabrina wanted to believe her. So she nodded. And she never called again. 6 years passed. Sabrina built a life. It wasn't the life she'd imagined, but it was hers. She worked her way up in an international events company, coordinating logistics for high-profile galas, conferences, and corporate functions. She was good at it, detail-oriented, invisible in the best way. Her apartment was small but warm, filled with photos of Leo and her grandmother, colorful drawings taped to the fridge, toys tucked into corners. Leo grew up quick and curious, with his mother's eyes and a quiet intensity that sometimes made Sabrina's chest ache because she knew exactly where it came from. Her grandmother helped as much as she could, watching Leo when Sabrina worked late, teaching him to be polite and observant and kind. Sabrina never told Leo about his father. Not yet. She told herself she would when he was older, when he could understand. But the truth was, she didn't know how to explain a man who didn't know he existed. Tonight, Sabrina is working a gala in downtown Atlanta. It's a massive event, over 300 guests, all elite, all demanding. Her team has been setting up for days, and now that the guests are arriving, Sabrina's job is to make sure everything runs smoothly behind the scenes. She's dressed simply, green draped blouse, slacks, comfortable shoes. Professional. Invisible. Leo is with her. Her grandmother is not feeling well. Sabrina told her not to worry, that she'd bring Leo with her, that he'd stay backstage and color quietly while she worked. Leo's a good kid. He doesn't complain. But he's also 6, and 6-year-olds get curious. While Sabrina is coordinating with the catering staff, Leo wanders toward the ballroom entrance. He's not supposed to. But he hears music, sees lights, and he just wants to look. He peers around the corner, eyes wide. The ballroom is enormous. Chandeliers hang from the ceiling like frozen starlight. People in suits and gowns move through the space like they own it. And then Leo sees him. A man standing near the bar. Tall. Still. Dressed in a black suit that fits him like it was made for him. There's something about the way he stands, straight but not stiff, powerful but not loud, crossed his hands, that makes Leo stop and stare. The man adjusts his jacket. Left hand, thumb on the lapel. One smooth motion. Leo mimics him without thinking. The man shifts his weight. Leo does too. The man tilts his head slightly, scanning the room. Leo mirrors him exactly. He doesn't know why. It just feels right. Sabrina notices Leo is gone and her heart lurches. She moves quickly through the backstage area, scanning for him, and when she finally spots him near the ballroom entrance, relief floods through her. "Leo," she says quietly, reaching for his shoulder. "You can't be out here, baby." But as she guides him back, her sleeve rides up. And across the ballroom, Jaemin sees it. The flower. Inked into her wrist. The same design. The same placement. His breath stops. The room tilts. Because he knows that tattoo. He remembers the night she got it. He remembers everything. And now, 6 years later, she's here. And so is the boy. The boy who moves like him. Jaemin's guard steps closer. "Sir." But Jaemin doesn't hear him. He's already moving. Jaemin's guard says his name twice before it registers. "Sir." The second time carries enough weight that Jaemin blinks, pulling himself back into the room, back into the noise and the champagne and the carefully maintained performance of a man who is always in control. He straightens, takes a slow breath, lifts the whiskey glass and finally drinks from it, not because he wants it but because his hands need something to do. "I'm fine," he says quietly, and his guard steps back without another word, trained well enough to know when not to push. Jae-min turns back toward the room. The ballroom continues as it always does. Indifferent, celebratory, oblivious. Guests move and laugh and clink glasses, and nobody in this entire space knows that 30 seconds ago, the ground shifted beneath his feet. He scans the room once more. The service hallway door is closed. She's gone. He doesn't follow her. He stands there for another hour, speaking when spoken to, nodding at the right moments, performing the version of himself that this city expects. Composed, commanding, unreachable. But inside, the same thought keeps cycling through him, quiet and relentless. That boy. That flower. That woman. He leaves the gala just after 11, slides into the back of his car without speaking, and stares out the window the entire ride back to his hotel. Atlanta moves past him in streaks of light. He doesn't see any of it. Back in his suite, Jae-min sits on the edge of the bed still dressed, jacket on, tie loosened exactly 1 inch, the only concession to the hour. He doesn't sleep. He sits with it. The memory of Sabrina comes back not in a flood but in pieces, the way memories do when you've spent years training yourself not to think about someone. Her laugh first. Then her voice. Then the park, the ring, the way she said yes like it was the simplest truth in the world. Then the coffee shop. Her face across that table. The way she stood up and left, and he didn't follow her and told himself it was the right thing to do. He told himself that for 6 years. He picks up his phone twice and sets it down both times. There is nothing he can do tonight. He knows that. Whatever this is, whatever she is doing here, whatever that boy means, it requires thought, not impulse. He is not a man who acts on impulse. He lies back on the bed fully clothed and stares at the ceiling until the room lightens around him and Atlanta wakes up outside his window. The next morning, he calls his head of security into the suite before breakfast. "The woman from last night," Jae-min says without preamble. "The one working the event. Black woman, late 20s, logistics staff. She had a child with her backstage." His guard nods, already anticipating the request. "I want to know who she is, where she works, where she lives, how long she's been in Atlanta. Everything." He pauses. Carefully. Quietly. Nothing that disturbs her or her child. "You understand me?" "Understood, sir. And I want it confirmed, not assumed. Don't bring me guesses." His guard leaves. Jae-min sits at the window with his coffee and watches the city below and tries to prepare himself for information he already suspects he knows. It takes 2 days. His man returns on a Tuesday morning with a thin folder, with important facts. Sabrina Denise Wright. 28 years old. Logistics and compliance coordinator for a mid-sized international events company headquartered in Atlanta. 6 years with the same company, promoted twice. Lives in a 2-bedroom apartment in a modest neighborhood in southwest Atlanta. 1 child, Leo Wright, 6 years old. No father listed on the birth certificate. She lives with her grandmother, an older woman who helps with childcare. No significant relationships on record. No debt beyond standard. No criminal history. Quiet life. Careful life. Jae-min reads the folder twice, then sets it on the table and sits back. No father listed on the birth certificate. He reads that line a 3rd time. Leo Wright. 6 years old. He does the math he already did in the ballroom, and the answer is the same as it was that night. Hi family. What do you think happens next? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're enjoying the story so far, give it a like, turn on notifications, and subscribe if you haven't. Let's continue with the story. He closes the folder. He doesn't open it again. He sits with this for the rest of the day and into the evening, moving through his scheduled meetings with the surface of his mind while something deeper sits very still and processes what this means, what it costs, what it changes. He doesn't call her that night. He's not ready. More than that, she isn't ready. He knows that without having to be told. Whatever is about to happen between them, it cannot start from him ambushing her emotional life because he can't wait another 48 hours. She has been waiting 6 years. He can wait 3 days. On the third day after finding her information, a Friday afternoon, Jae-min dials the number his man found. Her work mobile, listed on the company's staff directory. He expects voicemail. She picks up on the 4th ring. Sabrina Wright. Her voice is professional, clipped. She doesn't know it's him. Sabrina. One word, just her name, and the silence that follows it is enormous. He hears her breathing change. Hears the small sound she makes, not quite a gasp, more like someone who has just stepped on uneven ground. How did you get this number? Her voice has gone completely flat. Your company's directory, Jae-min says. It's public. Another silence. What do you want? Still flat. Still professional. Protecting herself with tone the way she always did, turning her voice into something neutral and impenetrable when she needed to. I want to talk, Jae-min says. I saw you at the gala. I know what you saw, Sabrina says quietly. The professionalism cracks slightly on those words. Not much, just enough for him to hear the warning beneath them. And I know what you think you know. But I'm at work, Jae-min. This isn't. I know, he says quickly. I'm not asking for now. I'm asking for when you're ready. Whenever that is. He stops, because the words he'd prepared feel inadequate now that he can hear her voice again. I just needed you to know that I saw you. And that I'm not going to disappear. Silence. He can hear her environment, the ambient sounds of an office, someone speaking in the background, the ordinary sounds of her ordinary day that she has built without him. I'll think about it, she says finally. That's all. Then the line goes quiet. Jae-min holds the phone for a long moment before lowering it. She didn't hang up angry. She didn't tell him never to call again. She said she'd think about it. For now, that has to be enough. Few days have passed. Jae-min doesn't call again. He gave her his number at the end of that Friday call, one sentence before she could cut him off. You can reach me on this number whenever you decide. He did not add pressure to that. He meant it. He goes about his week, his meetings, his responsibilities, the quiet machinery of the life he runs in Atlanta. But she's always somewhere in the back of his mind, a current running under everything else. On Tuesday, just before noon, his phone vibrates. Unknown number, but he knows the Atlanta area code. He answers immediately. Hello. It's Sabrina. Her voice is different from the work call. Quieter, more careful. Like she's made a decision and is moving forward before she can change her mind. I have Saturday morning free, she says. Leo is with my grandmother. I can meet you somewhere. Outside. Somewhere public. Yes, Jae-min says. He doesn't negotiate the terms. He doesn't suggest anywhere more private or more comfortable for himself. She's setting the conditions, and that is exactly as it should be. You choose where, he adds. A brief pause. There's a coffee place on Ponce de Leon. I'll find it. 10 o'clock. I'll be there. Another pause. Longer this time. Jae-min. Yes. I'm not. She stops, then starts again. I'm going because there are things that need to be said. Not because anything has changed. I understand, he says. Saturday. 10 o'clock. She ends the call without a goodbye, but she called. That's the thing she can't take back, and he thinks they both know it. Saturday morning arrives gray and cool for Atlanta in this season. The kind of morning that keeps the streets quieter than usual. Jae-min arrives at the coffee shop at 9:15, takes a table by the open window facing the street, orders black coffee he won't taste, and waits. He doesn't bring a guard inside. He has 2 men in a car across the street, and that's as much as he'd allow himself because showing up to this with security detail felt like the wrong thing entirely. He's dressed simply. Dark jeans, a black shirt, a leather jacket. No suit. No performance of power. He doesn't want power in this conversation. At 3 minutes past 10, he sees her coming down the sidewalk. She's wearing a long brown jacket over a white t-shirt and denim, her hair pulled back in a sleek low bun, moving with the same purposeful stride he remembered. She pushes through the door, sees him immediately, and crosses to the table without hesitating, like she made the decision to sit down before she even walked in and she's not going to give herself time to reconsider. She sits. Doesn't take off her jacket. Doesn't settle in. Her hands rest on the table, one over the other, and she looks at him directly. "You look the same," she says. It's not a compliment or a criticism. Just an observation. "You look." Jae-min pauses. "You look well." She nods once. A server comes. She orders tea, black, no sugar. He wraps both hands around his coffee cup. Neither of them speaks for a moment, and the silence between them is full of everything that needs to be navigated before they can get to anything. "I'm going to ask you something," Sabrina says, "and I need you to just answer it. Straight. No explanation first, just the answer." "Okay. Did you know she called me? Your mother. Did you know she answered your phone and told me the pregnancy wasn't yours?" Jae-min holds her gaze. "No." Sabrina studies him for a long moment, the way she always did when she was deciding whether to believe something. "Did you know she offered me money to disappear?" "No." "Did you know I was pregnant at all?" "No." Sabrina exhales slowly through her nose. She looks down at her tea. "Okay." "Sabrina, I said okay," she says, not harshly, but firmly. "I believe you. That's not the hard part." "Then what is?" She looks up. "The hard part is that it doesn't change anything, Jae-min. You not knowing what she did, that doesn't undo 6 years. It doesn't undo me sitting in a bathroom at 22 years old trying to figure out how to have a baby alone. It doesn't undo my grandmother giving up her retirement to help me raise him. It doesn't undo Leo asking me once, when he was 4, why he didn't have a dad like his friend at nursery." Her voice doesn't break on any of that. It stays level and clear because she's clearly had this conversation in her head many times and she's decided to deliver it with dignity rather than collapse. Jae-min absorbs every word. He doesn't try to interrupt or defend. He sits with it the way it deserves to be sat with. "I know," he says quietly when she's finished. "I know it doesn't change those things. I'm not asking it to." "Then what are you asking?" she says. Jae-min says honestly, "I don't know what I'm asking for or what I have the right to ask for. I just know that I saw you last week and I saw him and I couldn't." He stops. Starts again. "I couldn't pretend I hadn't." Sabrina wraps her hands around her mug. Outside, Atlanta moves past them, unhurried. "He doesn't know about you," she says. "I haven't told him anything. I planned to, when he was older. When I could figure out the right words. That his father was someone I loved. That it didn't work out. That it wasn't about him." She pauses. "That's all I had." Jae-min nods slowly. He wants to ask about Leo, about what he likes, what he loves, whether he always moved like that or whether the mimicry at the gala was unusual. He wants to ask everything. But he knows this conversation isn't about Leo yet. This conversation is about Sabrina deciding whether he's worth one more minute of her time. "Can I ask you something?" he says. "What?" "After you called and my mother answered, why didn't you try again? A letter or coming to Seoul or, because she told me the pregnancy wasn't yours," Sabrina says flatly. "And she said it like she had information I didn't. Like maybe you told her something. After that night at the coffee shop I really wanted to forget and let go of the memory of you. And I was 22 and alone and already humiliated by how it happened, and I wasn't going to beg my way into a family that didn't want me before figuring much about me." Her jaw tightens. "I had too much self-respect for that. My grandmother raised me to have too much self-respect for that. I understand, Jaemin says. And he does. He understands it completely, and it breaks something in him to understand it, because it means the whole thing was so clean and so devastating. His mother knew exactly what she was doing. She knew Sabrina well enough, from what Jaemin had shared in his calls home, to know that offering money and implying manipulation would be the thing that made her walk away permanently. She targeted the thing Sabrina valued most, her dignity, and used it as a weapon. She won't interfere again, Jaemin says. You can't promise that. I'm promising it, he says quietly. Because I will make sure of it. Sabrina looks at him, assessing. You've become someone different. Not entirely a compliment. There's something careful in how she says it. Multiple companies. Different faces to the world. Armed security everywhere. And in certain circles, a silence that follows you like a shadow. She looks at him steadily. I know what that usually means. Jaemin meets her eyes and doesn't lie to her. It's dangerous and complicated. I know that, Sabrina says. But I have a 6-year-old son, Jaemin. Dangerous and complicated stops being interesting when you have a child to protect. I understand that, he says. And I'm not going to pretend what I do is simple or safe. But I can tell you that I would never let anything from my world touch him. Or you. The same way I've always been careful. The same way I've kept people I care about safe. You didn't keep me safe 6 years ago, you chose to be there. I chose what's best for me. Sabrina says quietly. The words land between them like something dropped from a great height. He doesn't argue. He can't. She's right. No, he says. I didn't. She finishes her tea. The morning has moved on around them, the coffee shop filling gradually with Saturday customers, voices and music layering into the background. Sabrina sets her mug down and straightens slightly, and Jaemin recognizes the body language. She's preparing to leave. I'm not saying no to everything, she says, and he goes very still. But I'm not saying yes to anything yet either. I need to think. I need to figure out what's best for Leo. What's best for him. That's all I'm asking, Jaemin says. That you think about it. She stands, pulling her jacket around herself. I'll reach out, she says. Don't call me again unless I've called you first. Don't show up anywhere near my home. Don't send anyone to watch me. Agreed, Jaemin says immediately. All of it agreed. She nods once. Then she leaves, walks out through the door and back onto the Saturday street and into her life, and Jaemin watches her go. He doesn't move for a long time after that. The coffee in front of him has gone completely cold. 2 weeks pass. Jaemin keeps his word. He doesn't call. He doesn't send anyone near her street. He tries to go about his life in Atlanta. Meetings, operations, the careful management of an empire that runs on discretion and control. But the waiting is its own kind of discipline, and he's not entirely sure he's handling it well. He works more than he should. Sleeps less. His second-in-command, a tall, sharp-eyed Korean man named Sung-ho who has been with him since Seoul, notices the change and is smart enough not to comment on it directly. You're distracted, Sung-ho says one evening after a meeting drags longer than it should, all because Jaemin missed a detail he would normally catch without effort. Jaemin doesn't look up. I know. Sung-ho's voice stays respectful and controlled. Shall I handle it, sir? There is a brief pause before Jaemin replies, calm but final. No. I will. Sung-ho dips his head once in acknowledgement and asks nothing more. Meanwhile, in a 2-bedroom apartment in southwest Atlanta, Sabrina is having her own version of this difficulty. She hasn't told her grandmother yet. She's carrying the whole thing alone. The gala, the recognition, the Saturday coffee, the conversation, all of it sitting in her chest while she makes lunches and attends work meetings and helps Leo with his letters in the evening and answers her grandmother's occasional probing looks with enough normalcy to keep the questions at bay. Her grandmother misses nothing. She's been with her for long enough not to notice if anything is wrong. Even after Leo was born, she's still with her sleeping in the second bedroom, filling the apartment with the smell of her cooking and the sound of her gospel radio in the mornings. And over the years she has developed an almost supernatural ability to read Sabrina's emotional state. On a Thursday evening, 5.5 weeks after the gala, Leo is in bed and Sabrina is washing dishes and her grandmother is sitting at the kitchen table with her evening tea, and the silence between them has been sitting too long. "You going to tell me?" her grandmother says. Sabrina keeps washing the same plate she's washed twice already. "Tell you what? Whatever's been on your mind since that event you worked 4 weeks back." Sabrina sets the plate down, turns off the water, dries her hands slowly on the dish towel, buying herself a few extra seconds she doesn't really need because she already knows what she's going to say. She sits down across from her grandmother and puts her hands flat on the table. "I saw Jae-min," she says, "at the gala. He was a guest." Her grandmother's face doesn't move. Her eyes sharpen but her face stays perfectly still, the way it does when she's processing something significant. "Leo was with me in the backstage. He wandered out for a minute and," Sabrina pauses, "he mimicked him. Every gesture, every posture. Without knowing. And then Jae-min saw my tattoo." Her grandmother sets her mug down carefully. "Then he called me 3 days later, and I agreed to meet him that Saturday at a coffee shop. Leo wasn't there." Her grandmother is quiet for a long moment. Outside, the neighborhood settles into its evening sounds. A television somewhere, a car passing, the ordinary music of the street. "What does he want?" her grandmother asks. "He says he wants to talk. To be involved." Sabrina's jaw tightens. "He didn't know, Mama. About the pregnancy. His mother intercepted when I called. She told me the baby wasn't his, offered me money to go away. He genuinely had no idea." Her grandmother absorbs this. Her expression doesn't soften exactly, but it recalibrates, the anger shifting from one target to another. They sit with that for a moment. "And what did you tell him?" her grandmother asks. "That I need to think about what's best for Leo. That he shouldn't contact me unless I reach out first." Her grandmother nods slowly. "Good. I haven't decided anything," Sabrina says. "I know you haven't. I might decide nothing changes. That's your right. But I also might." She stops. "I don't know. He's different. He's not the person he was in college, but underneath that difference there's still..." She can't finish the sentence properly. Her grandmother waits. "I don't trust it yet," Sabrina says finally. "The feeling. I don't trust what I feel when I'm around him because I never fully stopped feeling it, and that scares me." Her grandmother reaches across the table and covers Sabrina's hands with her own worn, strong hands that have held this family together through everything. "Trust is not the same as feeling," her grandmother says. "Feeling comes easy. Trust is built slowly. With evidence. With time. With a man showing you who he is when things get hard." She squeezes Sabrina's hands once. "You take your time. You let him show you. And if what he shows you isn't enough, you close that door and you don't look back." Sabrina nods. Her eyes sting but she doesn't cry. "And Leo?" she asks. "Leo doesn't need to know anything yet," her grandmother says firmly. "Not until you know what you're dealing with. That child's heart is not something we gamble with." "Agreed," Sabrina says. They sit together in the kitchen quiet for a while longer, the gospel radio playing softly in the background. Leo is sleeping, the apartment holding them the way it always has, small and warm and enough. On a Monday morning, the following week, Sabrina texts Jae-min. Just one line. "I think we should talk again." He responds within 2 minutes. "Tell me when and where." She picks a park this time, a wide open public green space near her work that she passes every day, where she already knows every bench and exit. They meet on a Wednesday lunch hour. Sabrina brings a coffee from the place next door to her office and Jae-min is already on the bench she named when she arrives, and he stands when he sees her coming, which is such a small thing but she notices it. They walk rather than sit this time, moving along the path at a pace that feels more like thinking than exercise. The conversation is easier than the first one and harder simultaneously. Easier because the initial shock has settled, harder because without the formality of a coffee shop table there's less structure between them. Jae-min asks about her work. She tells him briefly what she does, the coordination, the logistics, the satisfaction of making complex things run smoothly from behind the scenes. He listens properly, not performatively. You always were good at seeing the whole picture, he says. It comes out before he filters it, a memory leaking through, and he sees her jaw tighten slightly. Sorry, he says. Don't apologize for remembering, Sabrina says. Just, be careful with it. He nods. They walk a bit further. She asks about him. Carefully, precisely. Not the company names or the business details, but the shape of his daily life, what it looks like, who it involves. He's honest in a way that costs him something. He tells her that his days are structured around control and discretion. That the people closest to him are loyal, but the loyalty is built on power, not warmth. That he hasn't had anything that felt like a real conversation in years, possibly since the last real conversation he had with her. That's a lonely way to live, Sabrina says. Yes, Jae-min says simply. It is. She looks at him sideways. There's something in her expression, not sympathy exactly, more like recognition. Like she understands loneliness from the inside out and is acknowledging that he does too, even if their versions of it look completely different. His loneliness comes dressed in power. Hers in hard work and love, and the particular exhaustion of being solely responsible for another person's entire world. I want Leo to have a father, Sabrina says suddenly, and the directness of it stops Jae-min mid-stride. She doesn't look at him as she says it, keeps walking, eyes forward. Not because of you. Not because of us. Because of him. Because he deserves that. And because I've watched him his whole life with this quiet, she pauses. This quiet space in him that I don't know how to fill. Jae-min's throat tightens. But, Sabrina continues, wanting that for him and trusting you to be that for him are two entirely separate things. And you need to understand that distinction. I do, Jae-min says. You don't get to meet him yet, Sabrina says. I need more time with you first. I need to know that who I'm seeing right now is who you actually are. Not a performance. Not guilt. Not you trying to prove something. How long? She almost smiles. Almost. As long as it takes, she says. I know that's not the answer you want. It's the honest answer, Jae-min says. That's what I want. They reach the end of the path and loop back. Somewhere across the park, a child is laughing, and Jae-min watches Sabrina's face when she hears it, the way her whole expression changes just slightly, becoming softer and more guarded at the same time, the way it does when something reminds her of Leo. The love there is enormous and quiet and entirely self-contained, and Jae-min understands for the first time the full weight of what he missed and what he's asking to be let into. They part at the park entrance. No warmth yet, no lingering. She heads back to her office. He watches her go, then turns in the opposite direction, hands in his pockets, working through what the next step looks like when you're trying to earn something there's no shortcut to. The first time Leo meets Jae-min, it happens on a Saturday afternoon at a small community park 20 minutes from Sabrina's apartment. Sabrina planned every detail, the location, the timing, the exit strategy if Leo became uncomfortable, the exact words she used to prepare him the morning before. She sat across from her son at the kitchen table with her hands folded and told him simply that there was someone she wanted him to meet. A man she knew a long time ago. Leo had looked at her with those steady, too perceptive eyes and asked, "Is it the man from the party?" Sabrina had stilled. "Yes," she said. Leo nodded slowly, like he'd already worked this out on his own and was simply waiting for the adults to catch up. Her grandmother stood at the kitchen counter saying nothing, but her silence had its own texture, watchful, unsettled, not yet ready to call this good or bad. She had said her piece weeks ago and would not repeat it. What happened now was Sabrina's to navigate. At the park, Jae-min arrives before them and stands near the entrance with his hands in his pockets. And Sabrina notices immediately that he's left his security detail completely out of sight today. No car across the street, no men hovering at a respectful distance. He understood what this moment required without being told, and that matters to her more than she lets show. Leo spots him from 20 feet away and slows his walking without realizing it. Sabrina keeps her hand close to her son's shoulder but doesn't grip. She wants him to feel guided, not held. They close the distance. Jae-min crouches down when Leo is still a few steps away, bringing himself to the boy's level, and says his name simply. "I'm Jae-min." Leo stares at him for a long, unblinking moment. Then he says, "You have the same nose as me." Sabrina's breath catches. Jae-min stares at Leo's small nose, identical to his own, and his jaw tightens, the effort of holding himself together written plainly across his face. "Yeah," he says quietly. "You're right." There's no swelling emotion performed for anyone's benefit. It is just a child noticing something true, and a man receiving it like it's the most significant thing anyone has ever said to him, because it is. They walk the park path for an hour. Leo talks freely about his sketchbook and his favorite colors, and a boy at school named Marcus who can whistle with 2 fingers. Jae-min listens with complete attention, asking the right questions, never performing interest, just genuinely present in a way that Leo responds to without understanding why. Sabrina walks slightly apart from them, close enough to intervene, far enough to watch honestly. What she sees is careful. It doesn't overwhelm her. It doesn't resolve anything. But it tells her something real, that Jae-min is not here for the idea of fatherhood. He is here for this specific boy, this personality, these hands. When they leave the park, Leo walks between them for a stretch of the path without anyone arranging it, and none of them comment on it. Some things are better left unspoken until they're ready to hold the weight of words. The weeks that follow are slow and deliberate. Jae-min sees Leo twice more, outside and always in public, always on Sabrina's terms. Her grandmother remains at the edges of all of this, watching Jae-min the way she watches weather, reading signs rather than accepting surface appearances. She is not unkind to him when their paths cross, but she is not warm either, and Jae-min doesn't try to rush her. He greets her with consistent respect and continues to show that he is a different person, one who won't abandon them again. It is the right instinct. One evening, after Jae-min drops a sketchbook at a neutral location for Leo, something the boy had mentioned wanting, he passes by Sabrina without fanfare. Her grandmother watches Sabrina put it away and says only, "He pays attention," before returning to her gospel radio without elaborating. It is not absolution, but it is something. Then Jae-min's mother arrives in Atlanta, and the fragile, careful life they are building suddenly stands in a cold wind. That night, Jae-min walks into the hotel suite where his mother waits, immaculate as always in a tailored suit, hair perfect, expression unreadable. Before he speaks, he shows her an email on his phone, the results of a DNA test confirming Leo is his son. She glances at it, expression unreadable. "Jae-min," she says coolly. "Omoni," he replies, standing in the center of the room, arms at his sides, neither sitting nor bowing, waiting. "I assume you know why I'm here." "I can guess." "Then let's not waste time." "The woman. The child. This ends now." "No," Jae-min says simply. Her eyes narrow. "Excuse me. I said no. This doesn't end. This is my life. My choice. You don't get a say in it. I am your mother, and I am a grown man who has done everything you and father ever asked of me. I went to the schools you chose. I handled everything well. I've sacrificed my entire life for this family." Jae-min's voice is steady, controlled, but steel lies underneath. "But I won't sacrifice my son. And I won't sacrifice the woman I love. Not for you. Not for anyone." His mother stands, composure cracking. "You have responsibilities. I know. One of them is to be a father to Leo, to be a partner to Sabrina, to build a life that's mine, not yours. She is using you." "She's not," he cuts her off. "You didn't like her because she is black, because you convinced her I wouldn't care. You denied me 6 years with my own son. Her eyes flicker. She refused your money 6 years ago. She raised our son alone without asking me for anything. She didn't even tell me he existed because you convinced her I didn't care. Her face pales. You lied to her. You told her the pregnancy wasn't mine. You offered her money to disappear. And because of you, I missed the first 6 years of my son's life. I was protecting you. From what? Jaemin's voice rises. From happiness. From love. From a woman who saw me as more than just an heir to your empire. She says nothing. I'm done, he says quietly. I'll still run the business. I'll still honor the family. But my personal life is mine. And if you try to interfere again, I will cut you out completely. No contact. No access to your grandson. Nothing. Her hands tremble. You would choose them over your own family? They are my family, he says. And yes, I would. Silence stretches. She turns away, staring out at the Atlanta skyline. Your father won't accept this. Then he'll have to get used to disappointment. He heads for the door, pausing. For what it's worth, I hope someday you'll understand. I hope you'll want to know your grandson. But that's your choice, not mine. He leaves without waiting for a response. That same evening, he calls Sabrina. His voice is controlled, though she hears the undercurrent. She knows, he says. She's here. Sabrina is quiet. What does she want? What she always wants, Jaemin replies. To manage the situation. And you. Whatever I have to. The next evening, he meets his mother again in her hotel suite. The conversation is quiet. It was never going to be loud. That's not how his family operates. But it is the most honest exchange he has forced himself through, carrying the weight of what he should have said 6 years ago. She presents her position with the certainty of someone who has never been truly refused. He listens, then tells her quietly, without cruelty, that what she did was unforgivable, that the years she stole from him and Leo will not be minimized for family comfort. Sabrina and Leo are not a situation to be managed. He tells her she can choose to know her grandson on terms Sabrina agrees to, or return to Seoul and leave them to navigate the absence. Indifference is no longer an option. She says very little, a woman who doesn't break easily, yet something in her eyes shifts. The realization that the person in front of her can no longer be predicted. She leaves Atlanta 2 days later. When Jaemin tells Sabrina, he is honest about the uncertainty. She might come around. Or she might not. Sabrina nods. Leo doesn't need people who have to be convinced he's worth knowing. He just needs the ones who already know. 3 months after the gala, they are building something honest. They are something more durable than that. Jaemin has not moved into their lives. He moves alongside them, at a distance that is slowly, incrementally closing. Leo calls him Appa and lights up when he arrives and has started showing him his drawings before he shows anyone else. And Jaemin keeps every single one. Sabrina's grandmother made him tea without being asked one Sunday morning and handed it to him without comment. And Sabrina saw it and didn't say a word because some things deserve to land in silence. Sabrina and Jaemin are not yet what they were and not yet what they might become. They exist in the careful, honest space between, building something that has no name yet but feels, for the first time, like it is built on ground that will hold. One evening on her small balcony, city lights stretching out below them and Leo asleep inside, Sabrina looks at Jaemin and asks the question she's been turning over for months. If we hadn't gone through all of that, would we still recognize each other now? Jaemin is quiet for a long time, he says finally. Maybe. Maybe we needed to become who we are first. Sabrina looks out at the city. The flower tattoo on her inner wrist catches the light. Still there, still delicate, still the same design she chose when she was 21 years old and completely certain of one thing in a world full of uncertainty. She doesn't cover it. I call it my root of strength and survival, she says, almost to herself. The tattoo. What it reminded me of. And now. She considers that for a long moment. Now it just feels like mine, she says. Jaemin nods. He doesn't reach for her hand, though though the distance between them on that balcony is small enough that he could. He waits. Because that is what this has required of him. Patience, presence, the willingness to wait for what is real rather than reach for what is easy. Sabrina turns to look at him, and whatever she finds in his face is enough, because she shifts slightly toward him, just a quiet closing of space. They sit together in the city dark, and Leo sleeps inside, and the grandmother's gospel radio plays faintly through the window, and it is not perfect and it is not finished, but it is honest, and it is theirs, and for now that is everything. Whether love is truly proved by holding on or by knowing when to let go, that question doesn't have a clean answer tonight, and maybe it never will. But sitting here with the city spread out below them and a child breathing peacefully down the hall, it feels less like a question and more like something they are living, one careful day at a time. If this story stayed with you, kindly drop a comment below. I want to know what hit hardest. And if you're new here, subscribe. Because the stories we tell here are the ones that don't let you go easy. Thank you for watching and see you in the next story.